Greetings, my name's Dwayne, and currently I'm working on what I'm calling the Wonderful Wizards, a group of gnomes that I'm putting together, a special coat that I've designed, but I've also come up with shoes for my wizards here to make them easier and shoes that can be used on other gnomes too. So I want to show you how to make the shoes in this video. And what I've done is I've taken one of my patterns that I used for some of my larger gnomes. And this pattern's out there, and I've actually shrunk it down to a smaller size and made it so I can make it work with smaller gnomes that use like a 4-inch cone to about a 6.97. I say 6.9 because that's the Dollar Tree one, but this is also a 6-inch cone that's available most craft stores, Hobby Lobbies, Michael's. You can pick up those 6-inch gnomes. So I'm going to show you how to make that. With these gnomes, I'm actually using darker colors. I'm using the grays. I'm using the dark black, blues, that type of thing. But I wanted to show you on a lighter color just so you can see better. So I'm taking a piece of 9x12 felt, just our standard felt, folding it over, and I've traced out my shoe here, and I can actually get 3 gnomes out of this. So I get 6 shoes all together out of a 9x12 piece of felt. And then I can do the base on there too, because there's only 2 simple pieces with it. So just a little trick there that I do to get more out of my felt, that I can get actually 3 sets for my gnomes. So I've cut out my pieces. The only other piece I have is actually the sole for the inside of the shoe. And what I do is I use craft foam for that. You can pick up the craft foam, again, at the Hobby Lobby or any of the Michael's or any of the stores like that. Or you can use cardboard. This is just to give my inside of the shoe some structure and some support in there, and also something to glue onto. So I've cut out my shoe. I leave it folded. And then I make a mark. This mark I'm doing 2.5 inches in. This is where I'm going to sew down to before I add my base on. So let me grab a piece of thread here. And I start out right up here at what I call the V, I guess, where it comes together. This is going to be a collar. This is going to be a roll down collar on the shoe, and it's more of an elf shoe. It gives you a little bit of character to it. The hard part is with a lot of my wizards here, though, the shoe's underneath the coat, so you don't see much of the shoe. But I like the design, and I'm coming up with other ideas that I can actually use the shoe with. So I think it's a great little elf shoe. So if I'm doing something where I might have like a dangling legs, or I have something where not showing off the coat as much, I want to show off the shoes, this is going to give me an option. I spent many days, many hours going through YouTube trying to come up with shoes. And we all do, most of us creators have done the Dollar Tree shoe. We've seen that a number of times. There are other videos out there how to make other shoes similar to the Dollar Tree shoes. I wanted more of a elf type of shoe, something more that looked well with the wizards. So I've come up with this pattern and thought if we could come up with something else, make it easy. The other ones I did, the first wizards I did, I used clay. And the shoes were actually based off of the Dollar Tree shoes. And using them, and they came out looking, with a point on them and everything. But I didn't think everybody could learn how to do clay. It may not be as accessible as the felt is. Also, there's some people don't use clay, other things, Dollar Tree, the shoes. There were just a number of little complications, and thought, well, let's make it easy. Let's find something, let's make something that, anybody can do and can be used with other gnomes too. gnomes or elves. Since this does, the little curl up gives us the elf shoe ideal, but I thought it'd be great with the wizards. So I'm coming right down to my spot there. I've made a mark on there that I want to just bring my thread on down to. So let's hit that mark. And the reason I put that mark there again is to put the sole on. The base first. The base I'm putting right here, right around the corner there, and putting right up there at the tip. Right where that point is, that's where the tip is going to come together. Opening up the shoe so I can round that in there. And then I'm just going to sew all the way around. Come all the way around here and then tie it off. Let's see if I got one here. Okay, just like that. So I've sewed around there. One of the other tips I want to give too when I'm cutting it out is I want to make sure that I cut sort of inside my lines, especially on the collar there, because I'm going to be turning the collar inside out. So here I've made my shoe. Now, for some purposes, I'm thinking about keeping it just like this too, just cut like this. Other times, well, what I'm doing for the wizards is turning it inside out. I like the rounded look and everything. But by just sewing it, and I'm thinking about like adding white thread or yellow thread, something that's the thread's going to show off, it sits. It's a flat bottom. It's nice. Whereas when I turn it inside out, it's rounded. So I had to play with it a little bit. So it gives a little option. That's all I'm saying is that this gives it more of a finished look, but I may use this just for a roughed up look too and a little character to it. So give it a try. Do what you'd like. This is actually turned inside out, and all I do is go through the collar and just push it right through. Again, you might have to get something as far as a dowel rod or a pencil. If you don't have sharp scissors, tipped scissors, you can use them to help you push it through if you need to, because we want to get that point out too. But be careful pushing it through. We want to turn that inside out. And also, if you want to make it a little bit different look to it too, do it without the point. So I try to come up with different ideas, and while I'm doing them, think of how I can come up with different gnomes to go with them too, because I'm going to come up with something different to do with the color here. My woodland gnomes, I normally go with dark gnomes, brown gnomes, green gnomes. I love the green colors. I'm going to be doing a video with a coat that I'm using a green wool actually with that I really like. So I'm going to show how to do that. But here I am just pushing that point out. And then we're going to roll the collar down. And that's going to be our shoe. That makes our shoe right there. The only other thing we have basically is the sole and then how to attach it. So I might show you how to attach here too. We'll see how we're doing here. My sole, what I do is after I've cut it out, it's a little bit smaller than the base there. I'm going to sort of roll it just a little bit so it makes it easier for me to fit inside my shoe. And we're going to tuck it right down in there. So I've tucked it down. Roll it down. And there you have your basic shoe. As I said, the sole I want to be down in there, just along the bottom to give it a support, to also give it to where I'm going to put my base on it. Now, we'll go ahead and show you too. What I do after that is I add just a little bit of, I have aquarium rocks that I put in here. I also use kitty litter, and I use just a little bit to start out with because I want to get it down into that little hook there. So I add little pieces, just little bits at a time. I'm not trying to pour a lot in because I want to get it down all the way through there first. Get it down in there. And then I'm not filling the shoe all the way. I'll show you that in just a moment because I'm going to show you actually how I do it, how I mount. I get questions all the time, how I add shoes. And these are, like I said, I'm going to be putting them on cones. I don't usually add shoes to my felt because I'm not trying to poke my felt. Here I am just adding it so it's going down. Add just a little bit more. What I want to do is keep that open area. Keep that so I can actually stick. What I'm doing is I use the Dollar Tree curlers. And they come in different colors. It's more than just the medium size that I'm using. And depending on the size of the gnome is about how I cut it down. These gnomes with the coats, I got two different ones that I'm working on. One has a 2-inch base to the coat. The other one has a 1.5 inch. So I've cut down my curler to 1.5 inch. So it fits right inside there, nice and snug. Now the other thing is if you don't have a curler, use the dowel rods. If you have a dowel rod available, I use a dowel rod that I've gotten actually from Hobby Lobby. It's 3/8 of an inch. It does the same thing. I just cut it off. I'm actually going to leave. When I put it in there, I actually put an extra inch. I'll show you in just one moment here when I do mine. But with the dowel rod, I would put the 1.5 inches plus an extra inch in there to put in with my gnome. I'm going to show you how I'm doing these ones here though. So I got my curler in there. What I'm doing is I'm using a number 2 pencil. My number 2 pencils go right into the dowel rod. I mean, not the dowel rod, the curler. And then I add an inch. I measure up an inch. And then I'm just using my wire cutters. And I'm going to be breaking that pencil off. Be careful. And here I have what I'm going to be inserting into my foam. So from here, what I'll do is I make sure my gravel or sand or whatever you want to use as weight. That's why I put that in there, not only to keep the shape, but for weight. I'm going to put some glue on the bottom here and then put that in there. Now, okay, before I do that, actually, let me tell you, I'll add some fabric. I want it to match the bottom of my gnome. So if I'm using like a green here, I'm going to add green. This is going to be like my leg to my pants. But I'm just using this as an example. I'm trying to see look around real quick, see if I have a red one here. I don't have a red one here. But what I'm looking to do is just make it the same color. And started out as a shoe video, and I'm showing you the whole thing now. But so I have a 1-inch strip that I'll cut out. I don't care as much about covering the bottom part because that's going to be down in the shoe. And what I'm going to do is this is where I'm going to pull up my hot glue gun for a moment. Glue you down. I'm going to be doing this too with the coat video that I'm coming out with here shortly. And showing all this too, but might as well since we're doing a shoe video. Cut that around there. I'm trying to give just a little bit of lip up here, a little bit over top here, so when I stick this up into the cone, that's covered there. And I'm going to come around. We're going to cut off the excess there. Probably should have showed throwing that little piece away, but I keep everything. It always ends up in a pile on my desk, so it takes me a while before I go through and clean it up, but that's what happens when I'm building gnomes. It all just keeps coming together. So here again, I keep a little bit up top there. This is going to be going into the bottom of my gnome. Put some glue on here. Glue it right into my shoe. And you might have to turn it just a little bit, twist it just a little bit, because now I've added a little bit extra there because I wanted a snug fit. So that gives it a nice snug fit. Let me show you real quick here. These are actually the shoes that I was making for this one. So like I said, the color matches there. And then when I put them together here, this is about 1 inch apart on my tops here. So what I'm going to do with that, this is nowhere near ready. Let me find my X-Acto knife. What I'm going to do is I will press in and make cuts in and do them 1 inch apart. Stab that in there a bit more. And then take my shoe and put it right up in there, putting glue on the top here and gluing it in. Just to give you an idea there, like I said, I'm going to be doing a coat video and show a little bit more intent how to do the whole gnome with that. But I wanted to give you an idea on how to make the shoes. It's a simple pattern, 3 pieces, goes together real beautifully, looks nice. And from here, we can do a number of different things, put designs in, put laces in. With my final ones, I glue this down in the back. I add just a little touch just to keep my collar down on the shoe. But again, just trying to give you ideas, give you the basics, and let you go from there. Let you design, build. These are real cool. I like the way they look. I like how I can put them onto my different gnomes. So another shoe that'll be available. I have the pattern available, but also will be doing that with my coat and the Wonderful Wizards coming out here. Thank you.